Alright, so it's opened and I've had a lot of fun playing around with it. I can give the initial impressions on it. I can see why people like it. The only thing on it that I really didn't particularly care for, and thankfully it's kind of an optional, is it's the little safety lever. Now, if you have really big hands, then your thumb might go right on the middle of the lever. But if you have average size hands, then you're going to find that it's going to go on the edge here with this little serration thing that I guess they kind of put it on there for aesthetics. One, there's a little bit of flex before it clicks into place. And just overall, it's not very comfortable. So if I was to redesign something because I wanted to use the safety, then I guess probably extend that out. Larger size controls are never, never a negative. The trigger was fine, so I would leave that alone. The access hatch is completely unnecessary, but the upside of that is it does give you a hinge mount point for mounting replacement parts. So you can take this out and you can adapt this either with, I guess, more rail space, but you'd have to find a way to still get it to flip up because this is the load port. Or you could use it for the quick loader thing, since people are using these clips, actual clips that hold balls in there, and then you slide it in like a stripper clip. And I've seen multiple designs on that already. Don't know if I'll take my own hand at trying to make one that's a little bit simpler, that uses less plastic to print, and less plastic means that you can also print out a bunch of them faster, because the kit that I saw was it was close to an 8-hour print for the entire, for the hatch and for the clips themselves, which is a bit much, especially if you want to have like a half dozen stripper clips, which can only hold 5 rounds. So that's not a very good thing. I don't know if there's any way to improve the capacity on the inside. I haven't watched enough YouTube videos on this, even though it's been out for 6 months. But I'm about to get into the guts here. Everything's already been unscrewed. Okay, so I can see right here that there probably isn't a way to get more than 5 balls in there. So if you want to extend the internal magazine, then the only way you're going to do that is by going outside. And I can see by looking at the spring here, they probably could have gone beefier. I know that this holds a K26, and the K26 gives you pretty excellent performance. I think, if I can remember correctly, the Kronos went, I know it was over the 120, and 120 is what you get out of 3S LiPo for the electronic blasters. So anytime you can exceed that with a little handgun, that's great. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to remodel this piece with a hole in it. So you can have that piece in there and I guess make it in black so it matches the railing. And that hole will also allow it to take stripper clips. And I'm going to see if I can do a one-piece stripper clip again. And the whole reason for that is the purpose of making them faster and I guess cheaper to print. Filament's really not the issue. It's more the printing time. So if it takes you like a couple hours to print a stripper clip, it would be better if you could do the same functional part in like less than an hour. Then you can print out a whole bunch of stripper clips and not have to take all day on the printer. So let's get to that, and we will be back after we have the hatch with the door, with the hole. And once we have that, I am going to take some measurements on the balls and see if I can't just do like a semicircular style clip that has enough lip to keep the balls from popping out there, but is wide enough that it doesn't really matter if you have like Hulk style, Kibasa, whatever fingers. You can just run the balls straight into the loader. Okay, so as always, that took a couple of iterations before I could get it to work the way I wanted it to. We'll start with the load door, which actually came out alright. That one came okay. So you can see that it's pretty much using the same dimensions as the stock piece. It just has this big gaping hole in there for the rival rounds to fit into. It can still be flipped open, just like the original stock piece. And I do kind of like that it matches the top rail rather than... I think there's already enough orange, safety orange in this blaster, so we don't really need to worry about that. You know, no need to print this thing out of orange PLA or ABS or whatever it is that you're using. And the tolerances on the hole are tight enough that balls won't fall through, but if you're going to be swiping them through with your thumb using a stripper clip, then that's not going to be an issue. So that came out all right. That works fine. I mean, it's a hatch. How difficult can that be? And then the other piece that took a few goes was the safety. So you can't really see it because it's now black, and you can't really tell how the ergonomics are because I'm holding a shell half, not the full blaster, but you can see already that it's a lot easier to flip because of the extra leverage as opposed to this little shorty piece here. And those serrations were not the most comfortable thing in the world. There's a little bit of an edge there, but the thing is there's so much surface area for the safety that there's no reason to be doing this unless if you have really tiny hands. And even if that was the case, it's possible to just extend it even further. So you can see that it hops over the stock stop. So it just clears it like that. This, unfortunately, the only way I can get more than 5 balls into this chute is if I modify this. And what I would probably end up doing is just taking this entire piece and remodeling it in software. And it's not going to be as detailed, and it's not really going to match the full rival. In order for me to add all these little greeblies and everything, that would take me probably about a day's worth of modeling, and I don't know if I want to put a full day into that just so that I can add 1 ball to the chute. But if I can come up with anything else, I will. I'm still not throwing out the whole idea of potentially making an adapter for the magazines. I don't know if I want a 12-round magazine sticking out of the bottom of the blaster. The 7-round wouldn't look too bad. I can grab one of those right now. Alright, so this would be a 7-rounder, and we would have to have a way to, and I think it can actually be fit without modifying the shell. So again, it would just be removing this piece, and we're right back to where we were with adding 1 ball. So you're adding 2 balls, you still have to modify this whole thing, or you can do whatever, the old style of modification where you're just cutting pieces off and gluing things together. But I kind of prefer remodeling. So rather than chopping holes in things, just remodel it and print it out, because that's what everybody has printers for that are doing hobby-related things. Not so that you chop up the original parts. It's just not necessary anymore. So we might be able to get this to fit in here, and you can see it would be sticking out quite a bit. I don't think it can go in any further because this is where the transition would have to be, like right there. And you can already imagine if this is a 12-round magazine, then it's going to look like a bayonet. That's what it's going to look like. A bayonet filled with little yellow balls. So let's just worry about the stripper clip. Once that thing's working, then we can worry about the rest of the stuff. Alright, so we are ready for our test. We've got a handful of clips, and they're actually clips because there's no spring in these, loaded up. So all you need to do is just punch into your balls. That's right, punch your balls to load up the clips, like so. Last one. Alright, so now we've got 4 clips loaded. And observe the technique, because this is kind of important. I'm going to redesign the hatch to make it a little easier to do this maneuver, but the open side goes on the index finger, the thumb goes here, and then you push down. And you got to make sure that it's all the way in. So you got to really ram that last ball in there. Safety on. Alright, next load. And I might make the opening a little bit more funnel-like for tactical reloads, so I can kind of do it a lot easier and quicker. And last one. And unfortunately, I was not able to get that print time down. It does go down a little bit if you print multiples at the same time. You can print 4 and I think, what was it, 6 and change hours. But by themselves, it takes about an hour 45, 50 minutes to print each one. So it does result in a pretty substantial, strong piece, but again, it would be much nicer to see these printable in about an hour. So I'll see if I can reduce the amount of material that goes into this to print faster. That's at about 60 millimeters per second. So you can always crank the speed up, but that's kind of not the point. But they work, and there is a little bit of technique involved in using them, but they definitely work. So I'll have that up on Thingiverse, and I'll do a quick precursory test of the revision, and I'll get that loaded when I get to it.